Welcome, everyone. Thank you for joining our webinar about how to implement ideas. I am Whitney Bernstein, and I will be guiding you through our webinar today. We've assembled a few different types of resources for you today, and there's going to be an opportunity to ask questions at the end. So please be thinking of them as we go through the content here. I also wanted to let you know that we are recording this webinar, so it will be possible to access it after the event is over. We'll send out notice to everyone who registered with a link to where you can find the recording online. And of course, if you have any questions about IdeaScale or today's event, you can forward them to me. So let's get started. If you have had trouble implementing ideas, please know that you are not alone. Implementation is a challenge shared by all innovation managers, but we're here to help. With a clearly defined process, you will be well on your way to making ideas a reality. Today, we will discuss how to convert ideas to action and action to results. In order to do this, we need two things: a decision to take action and follow through on the decision to deliver results. In the first portion of this webinar, we will discuss how to come to a sound decision about ideas. We will discuss how to make decisions that are accepted by all the key stakeholders and are consistent with the goals of your crowdsourcing or innovation program or the goals of your organization overall. To this end, we recommend the following best practices. Involve key stakeholders early. Separate discussion from decision making. And clarify how the decision will be made. In the second portion of the webinar, we will discuss how to act on these decisions in order to realize the full benefit of your crowdsourced innovation program and deliver significant and measurable value to your organization and stakeholders. To this end, we recommend the following best practices. Specify each decision or conclusion. Act on each decision, and then report back to the community and stakeholders. We will walk you through each of these best practices in more detail. We will also discuss how to avoid the common pitfalls of violated expectations and inaction. Throughout this webinar, we will discuss how software can support you in converting ideas into action and action into results. You can follow along with the bar at the bottom to track our progress as we advance through the best practices. Stick to these best practices and you will be well on your way to making ideas a reality. So first, involve key stakeholders early. In order to involve key stakeholders early, you must first understand who your key stakeholders are. I recently read a book called Crucial Conversations. In the chapter called Move to Action, the authors described how to identify potential participants in a decision. The authors recommended first asking, who cares? That is, who has a vested interest in the subject matter of your crowdsourcing campaign? Those people are potential candidates for involvement in the decisions around which ideas to advance. Then the authors ask, who knows? These are your subject matter experts. Third, the authors ask, who must agree? These are your influencers or those with decision-making authority at your organization. Finally, the authors recommend taking into consideration how many of these candidates for participation you can involve in a practical way without burying the decision in tremendous complexity and inefficiency. I pivoted off of this because software can help you overcome the challenges that usually bog down group decisions. A software solution allows you to efficiently gather and synthesize diverse opinions into a single decision. We will dive deeper into how software allows you to make a collective decision efficiently a little bit later. But for now, I would like to offer an alternative way to frame the fourth question. Instead of asking how many people can participate efficiently, Ask yourself, how and when will they participate? Of those people I wish to engage in a decision, how will I engage them efficiently? And when is the appropriate time to engage each of them? Thus, once you map out who cares and who knows and who must agree, you might not include each of these people in the decision-making process in the exact same way at the exact same time, but you can use software to develop an inclusive yet efficient system. Here is an example of how this might be done. You will likely engage your experts and authorities at the earliest stages of your program through discussion. These are the people who know a great deal about the subject matter of the campaigns you envision and can give you strong feedback on your problem statement and criteria for success. Thus, these are the people who must agree and must give blessing to your plan before you move forward in launching. Then, when you're scoping out the people who care about the subject matter of your campaign, the people with a vested interest in your campaign, you might discover that this constitutes your entire crowd. This is a good thing. This is the whole idea of crowdsourcing, to gather and synthesize the input of many minds. So you'll involve these people in collecting and generating ideas. These people will certainly post ideas and comment on ideas, but you might even invite them in early decision making by allowing them to help you screen ideas. You give weight to the opinions of the individuals in your crowd, and you involve these individuals in decision making by setting rules to screen or filter ideas according to certain thresholds in votes or other numerical scores. In this example, you might involve your subject matter experts later in the process, again, to transform idea fragments into fleshed out concepts by engaging them in idea refinement. And then finally, you might involve your authorities in the final stage of evaluating and selecting ideas and slating ideas for implementation. This is simply an example of how you might decide how and when stakeholders, experts, and authorities participate in decision making. We call this community governance. The governance that you develop for your community will likely differ from this specific example because it will fit instead with the specific culture and goals of your organization and program. But if you're not sure how to set up the governance for your specific community, you can certainly set up a consultation with an IdeaScale innovation architect for guidance. The second best practice is to separate discussion from decision making. During discussion, we want to promote expansive thinking so that we can extract the most value and insight and creativity from the crowd as possible. During decision making, we will use our goals and success criteria to converge on a clear decision and plan of action. By separating the discussion from decision making, you clarify for the crowd the nature of their participation at any given moment. If people know when to go broad and when to focus, it's easier for them to contribute to the collaboration. The third best practice is to clarify how decisions will be made. Again, drawing from Crucial Conversations, there are 4 options for decision making. The first method is command, also known as the executive decision. This is when an authority or delegate makes a unilateral decision. This is appropriate when the decision must be driven primarily by the executive or delegate's unique insight into the business environment, context, or constraints. The decision might be driven primarily by legal constraints or political or market dynamics. This is highly efficient, but it's less inclusive. The second option is consult. This is when decision makers invite others to influence them before making their choice. Consultation allows decision makers to gain input, opinions, and support without bogging down the process. You might do this by letting the crowd comment, vote, and assess ideas before sending ideas to authorities for a final decision. The third option is vote or pledge. You might use this option when Efficiency is important, and you are facing a number of good options. You don't want to waste time discussing these good options to no end. You don't want to waste time discussing these good options to no end. The third option is vote or pledge. You might use this option when efficiency is important and you are facing a number of good options. You don't want to waste time discussing these good options to no end, so you present the options to the decision makers and ask for a simple vote, and then you move along to implementation. Only use this when everyone is comfortable accepting the outcome of the vote. The final option is consensus. In this case, you allow the decision makers to discuss or comment until everyone honestly and fully agrees. This method can result in tremendous unity and quality decisions, or it can be a horrible waste of time. Only use this method for high stakes or complex decisions when everyone must support the final choice. As you can see, these options come with trade-offs. With increased involvement, you gain increased commitment, but decreased efficiency. If you're not sure with which method will work for you, you can set up a consultation with an innovation architect. The take-home message is to clarify how the decision will be made ahead of time and to communicate that those participating in the process have a role. This is the key to avoiding one of the common pitfalls, which is violating expectations. IdeaScale offers a number of functions that will support you in gathering key data and delivering efficient collective decisions. You can assemble these key functions into custom funnels so that you can achieve the workflow that serves your specific needs. This is what a workflow might look like for the command method. It's simple. You just collect ideas. Then the executive authority selects ideas, and the selected ideas get implemented. If you choose the consultation method, you might invite the crowd to weigh in with votes and comments early on. You might even invite the crowd to assess ideas in a specific stage. Thus, you might use a 5-star rating system for assessment. Then the executives might use this information to make well-informed decisions, and selected ideas will then get implemented. If you have a large executive committee, you might need an efficient process for them to arrive at a collective decision. Thus, you might insert a stage where the committee members can pledge their support for ideas with a vote. This stage I've called a committee vote. In this case, you might use a funding stage for pledging support, or you might use a voting stage. Finally, if you choose consensus, then you might have a dedicated stage wherein the evaluation committee can deliberate over the ideas and then make a final show of consensus. Thus, in this case, I named the stage under consideration. This is where the evaluation committee might discuss the idea through private commenting. And then later, they might show their support with voting, requiring a unanimous vote in order to advance an idea to selection and implementation. To iron out the funnel that's right for you, please feel free to request a personal consultation with an innovation architect. Once the ideas make their way through your funnels and stages, we will deliver a summary report of your data to help you better track the quality and progress of ideas in your community. So this snapshot shows a number of ideas, the votes for each of those ideas and the comments for each of those ideas, the score for the ideas that were rated using review scale, and the score for ideas that were rated using a pairwise comparison. And finally, this table also shows a SMART score. Each of these SMART scores is actually a combination of the scores by which the idea was evaluated. So it helps you compare ideas even if they're evaluated through different processes. Now, if this all looks like a lot of data and details, just remember the key take-home message. Clarify how the decisions will be made ahead of time, communicate this to your participants, and you will gracefully avoid the common pitfall of violated expectations. At this point, I want to pause to acknowledge that we have made it to a key milestone. We have made it to a decision. By following the best practices of involving stakeholders early, separating discussion from decision making, and clarifying how decisions will be made, we managed to avoid the key pitfall of violated expectations and instead arrive at a sound decision with maximum buy-in and support. However, we are not out of the woods yet. The other common pitfall is inaction. Inaction too often stands between a decision and results. Too many ideas lay fallow without any action taken. Inaction results in effort wasted, opportunities missed, and value lost for your organization. The next portion of the webinar walks you through the best practices for moving through action toward results. Specify each decision or conclusion, act on each decision, and finally report back to community and stakeholders. So again, drawing inspiration from crucial conversations, there are 4 key components to a well-defined decision or conclusion. Who, what, when, and how. First, who. It is essential to assign a name to each responsibility. I like how the authors put it. Everyone's business is nobody's business. We is code for not me. Second, what? What are the expectations? Specify the target outcome and clarify the details of the deliverables. Third, when, which means that each assignment requires a timeline with milestones. As the authors put it, assignments without deadlines are far better at producing guilt than stimulating actions. And the final question, how, refers to how will you follow up? Decision makers should define their expectations about follow-up. What is the method for follow-up, and how frequently should the implementation team follow up? That is, shall they follow up with weekly emails or with periodic posts to the IdeaScale community or through some other method? As the authors put it, if you want people to feel accountable, give them an opportunity to account. Build an expectation for follow-up into every assignment. You can do all of this in IdeaScale with a simple refine stage, as I've illustrated here on the right. If you would like a more sophisticated method for making assignments, you can also use our team build or idea ownership features. These are illustrated here. Once the assignments are made, it's time for the team to act. While the lead and team are implementing the idea, we recommend periodically checking on progress and resolving issues as they arise. And finally, it is absolutely essential that the lead and team report back to the community and the stakeholders. I recommend reporting back on both tangible benefits and intangible benefits. In IdeaScale, you might capture data on the net value or return on investment using an estimate stage. In our new reporting dashboard, we will then deliver a report to you on the return on investment of your full set of selected and implemented ideas. When reporting on intangible benefits, the implementation team might share lessons learned or which organizational priorities and values were supported through the implementation of their idea. Let's take JetBlue for illustration. JetBlue has 5 key values: safety, integrity, passion, fun, and caring. This is what it might look like to report back on implemented idea using IdeaScale Refine stage. You can ask the team to select which of these values were served and then ask them to report on the key outcomes and lessons learned. So here I have included the values from JetBlue that I mentioned earlier. And finally, a key part of reporting back is celebrating your success. Once an idea is implemented, don't forget to take a victory lap and broadcast the outcomes. The crowd wants to see results just as much as the sponsors. Publicly celebrating outcomes is a key tactic for driving further engagement in your community. Here are some photos of some of our clients doing just that. Today, we have discussed how to implement ideas by moving from ideas to action and action to results. We have discussed the 6 best practices to help you avoid the common pitfalls of violated expectations and inaction. And we have discussed how software can support you through this process. So that's a basic overview of idea implementation. Let's go ahead and open up to discussion and questions and see how you're implementing ideas and where you'd like to improve.